Hunter done enough to kind of cement himself as the starting center fielder?
Yeah, I think there could be situations where we would do a different combination out there in the outfield based off what's going on in the game. I feel confident each of those guys know those positions well out there, especially at home. But I think he's solidified himself as a personality on the team. I've said multiple times he's started to really come out of his shell as the type of kid he is and the competitor that he is. And then also we know we're getting a guy that's hooked up on defense and gives you competitive at-bats every time he's in there.
We'll go Mike and then Eric.
Kind of similar vein, but what did you like about Dylan Dreiling, maybe in terms of composure, just the way that he handled himself through that series?
Yeah, you hear coaches talk about, or even announcers, the guy knows how to slow the game down, and I wish I knew what was in that recipe, but he seems to have the game come pretty slow to him in the box for anyone, especially a freshman. And then also he's got a lot of skill with the bat. I mean, that was kind of known coming in based off how he was scouted by major league teams when we recruited him, how well he's done against strong competition. So that theme continues, and really I look forward to him getting better in other areas too, because he could be a pretty well-rounded player before he's done here.
Jack, or go ahead. If you have another Eric and then Jack after that.
Tier's got a couple babies last week, which is good to see, but how was he in terms of running out there in the outfield with that hamstring?
Yeah, a little bit more mobile than he was. Would really like to be more conservative than not with that deal. Everyone knows a hamstring is something that can kind of linger for a while if it's not handled or treated the right way. So would rather be patient, but at the same time, he is still a valuable bat for us, even if he's not in the outfield. I think we're probably a week away before he could be in the outfield. But as far as offense goes, or maybe even staying on the bases, if he would have reached base, his second base, he had a line drive to the right fielder, made a nice play on. If he were to be safe on that, we would have pinch ran for him right away. I'm not so sure this weekend we couldn't leave him on the bases as long as it wasn't a game time situation or anything like that.
With Jack and then Zach.
Chase Burns hasn't been his best in SEC play. What have you seen from him and the reason for his struggles?
Yeah, I mean, he's maybe had some inconsistency. It's tough to say struggle because at times he's dominating the opposition. I mean, I feel like, it was a moment in the middle of the game where Chris Burke and I are joking in the mid-game interview about how dominating he is, and then the next thing you know, you see things go the other way. So it's just been a lack of consistency. And Frank knows better than me, but my assessment that I've said a few times has been temperament. You have a guy who's a year older, more confident, and his stuff has ticked up a little bit. Some of that intensity, whether it's Charlie Sheen coming out of the bullpen in a movie or John Rocker back in the day, that closer mentality, maybe you can pull it off for an inning, but really the best closer of all time maybe is Mariano Rivera, where it's a very consistent intent but focused mentality that the guy had. And I can't speak for Chase because internally I don't know what's going on in the game, but you can see there's moments of extreme intensity and maybe trying to do too much, and so maybe a lack of consistency in their performance.
Right around halfway point of the regular season now, how would you characterize this first half from what you've seen, and then what do you want to see from your guys here coming up in the second half of this regular season?
Yeah, parallel to the fall. I think a lot of growth from the first weekend, and we said that about the fall. I mean, August was almost awkward, how new everything seemed to feel and how many questions were unanswered. But by the end of the fall, it didn't seem like that, and you had a lot of questions answered. But start a whole new season, the actual season, and I think we've made a lot of progress, answered a lot of questions compared to game one, and I look for really that same theme to continue. And everyone's talking around the office. I've spoken with some of you all. I mean, our best baseball has yet to come, and also our best team personality, team image, or just best environment has yet to occur as well. And that's not going to happen just over time, just because time takes place. It's got to be progress and guys forging ahead. And fortunately, we've had that mentality.
So Joseph, and then Wes, and then in the back.
Talking about the inconsistencies with some of the starters, looking at the bullpen, how well they handled LSU this weekend, just what did you learn from them, and how much more confidence do you have in them to keep you guys in games?
Yeah, we feel like if there's one part of any game, because our league is always a monster, but in particular, like the team we're about to face, there's just an extreme level of talent. But the one area we feel like we can go toe-to-toe with somebody is the bullpen. There's a lot of options, even after a weekend like playing LSU, top to bottom, maybe the best lineup in the league. We feel like we had unused, strong options down there. So it gives us confidence, and that should, you'd like to think, relieve stress on the starters and realize you give us 4 innings, especially on the road, and we're still in the game, or we have a chance to win the game is a better way to say it. You did your job for us. But those guys are really talented. They have high expectations, not just that they put on themselves, but then they hear it from other people too, and it changes the narrative a little bit. But at the end of the day, whether we get 2 hits or 20 hits or we get shutout innings, whatever, our group is trying to win the game. So as it relates to our starter-reliever, marriage we have going on there, the starters just need to get us midway through the game, and that's midway this year is kind of more the 4th than the 6th. Because that relief crew is pretty strong.
Tony, just what are your overall thoughts on Florida, and I guess especially fellow Italian Jack Caglianone?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I don't know that we're paisans this weekend with what he can do on both sides of the ball. He is a part of a staff that, Sully's been around this league and done as much as anybody, and he said this might be his best staff he's ever had. So I think that speaks volumes. Part of the reason is because of Caglianone, but also Sproat, a kid who could have went out and been a very high pick last year, decides to come back, which, individually he's saying he's betting on himself and can improve his status there. But as a team, what it means is you're getting a guy, like a Tidwell back on your pitching staff. And then on the offensive side with Caglianone, he really can do no wrong offensively. But right now, Rivera could argue he's got the best numbers, their shortstop, out of anybody. And the third guy that's kind of in that conversation of their top 3 hitters is Langford. Going into the season, he was not just talked about being the best offensive player on that team, but maybe in the league. So there's plenty of talent behind those 3 guys, but 3 really big starters that we'll see this weekend, and then 3 guys that sit in that lineup and boast pretty gaudy numbers.
All the way in the back.
Getting the win over LSU on Sunday, has that put a little bit more energy back into the team, a little bit more pep in their step going into this weekend?
I think going into the week, the one thing about Sunday or Game 3, which occurred on Saturday this past week, is that it does affect the environment going home on the trip. Everyone doesn't feel like they got to be quiet. They definitely weren't quiet. And then when you start the week, you do have a little more pep in your step and certainly confidence. In this league, you can't shy away from competition at all, but it is one of the toughest environments that we'll play in all year long. Again, one of the, top to bottom, maybe the best lineup. So to come out of there with a win and knowing that maybe we didn't play our best baseball and we're in each of those 3 games should also add confidence to the guys that we can compete with anybody in the league. But this will be a new set starting tomorrow night. And I think if anything's going to give our guys confidence, it's the fact we're playing on our home field in front of our fans.
All right, we'll take a couple more. We'll go to Ryan, Mike, and finish with Eric.
Back in 2019, you guys started 0-5 in SEC, you won that series finale against Vanderbilt, and the rest of the year you kind of talked about how that was a turning point for that team. Do you see any similarities between that Game 3 against Vanderbilt to Game 3 last week against LSU?
Yeah, your history is better than mine. I think it could be, and that team was unique unto itself. For this group, I think where that maybe in this storybook is a turning point is it's the start of the second half of the season. And the last couple years, it's almost like people are whispering, you don't win too many games too early, or were you playing your best baseball at a certain point prior to the postseason? You want to keep building. And again, there's no magic formula for that. But this team seems to have the consistent theme of getting to know each other more, growing more just in all categories, and then playing better. And then as a coaching staff, we seem to be getting answers more and more as days go by. So I think if it's a turning point, it's the start of the second half. You could argue a bunch of different things about the first half, but overall fairly successful, and we hope to build on that and be playing our best baseball in the second half.
How good is it to see Cam and Sewell have an extended outing this weekend? And with his return and ability to do that, how does that kind of elevate the bullpen beyond what it is?
Yeah, I mean, it does a lot because it was, to me, you can't pay too much attention to the scoreboard. That deal, and then, of course, Zane, popping one out of the park so we're not sitting on a lead was the edge in that game. The biggest thing about Cam's effort was I hope our guys were paying attention. And I don't know if they really were, because Camden is older. They expect great things of him. If he's out there, he can be successful. But the way he handled them, he finally calmed down. And the way he progressed in his throwing and the way we were conservative with him, we feel great about where he's at. I mean, he could start a game for us if need be. Again, the bigger theme, I think, was the way that guy battled and competed. I mean, he's pacing up and down the whole dugout, the whole weekend. He wants to go in the game. To be honest with you, I probably need to tell him he's wearing himself out before he's even wearing himself out. And then in the game, it was constant. Every inning, they had a chance to score. So it was like a save, a save, a save, a save. And the way he battled is something that our guys need to recognize. He's got talent, but he's been around this league for a long time and had a lot of success because of the type of competitor that he is.
Manager Barrett.
How much is Christian Scott giving you kind of settling in as almost an everyday player for you, and how much do you need Kyle Booker? Maybe not as good as he was on Saturday of last weekend, but you need a consistent Kyle Booker.
Yeah, just be Kyle Booker. And we've kind of conversated about it a bunch of different ways, but the kid can do some electric things with the bat. He can be a real positive for us defensively. Last year kind of switched the game for us against Georgia Tech in the regional final. If you remember, he was a pinch runner for us. So in all facets of the game, he can be incredibly valuable. And he's got a really fun personality to be around. I mean, he's, a big league clubhouse type guy. But like a lot of kids, not just on our team, he can kind of cover that up almost with a negative blanket when he tries to do too much or gets emotionally out of control or anything like that. So if he's himself, it's a lot of fun. I mean, he broke into this league as a pinch hitter for us in the 8th and 9th inning against the best closers in this league his freshman year and did really well. So I think that speaks to what he can do as much as anything. And then for Christian Scott, it's just fun to see him play every day because you saw the theme coming of, okay, this is his year to be out there more. He's had injuries. He's had really good players in front of him. He's had growing pains. And he tried to do so much early on. Again, negative blanket kind of sounds crazy, like teaching kindergarten class. But for whatever reason, he kind of pushed aside his best baseball with trying to, almost do too much. And now he's just playing. And again, a kid that the other guys cheer for. We've been dying to see out there a whole bunch. He's been wanting to, be out there and capitalize on all his work he's put in. And again, he's just giving us what Christian Scott can. And we don't need him to try and beat out Caglione for the SEC home run title or steal more bases than, Chris Burke or anything like that. Just go out there and play. And when he does, it's pretty nice. Got a guy who can bunt, a guy who can steal bases, a plus defender, and a guy who's come up with some big hits for us in really, a small sample size of opportunities.
Thank you, Coach. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.